Thank you for listening to this audiobook from Multimedia Publications. This is a part of a series of recordings of book readings and live seminars by some of the leading experts in business management. For more information on this series, visit our website at mmpubs.com. And now, our featured speaker.
The title of the talk today is an introduction to Disciplined Agile Delivery. So the Disciplined Agile Delivery is something that I sort of led the work on for several years when I was at IBM Rational, and then I'm continuing to work on it outside of Rational as well, and of course with Rational. So anyways, what I want to talk about today is I'm going to give you a very brief introduction to this framework. So I'm going to start by defining it, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into several of the key aspects of it, the fact that it's a hybrid, that there's several life cycles. We'll explore the roles and the fact that it's goal-driven. I'll eventually end with a little bit of a discussion around how you scale Agile. One of the key messages here today is that Disciplined Agile Delivery is pretty much the foundation from which you're going to scale Agile. I think a lot of organizations have been struggling a bit to scale Agile effectively, and I think it's because they haven't looked at the full picture. So anyways, I'll hopefully walk you through what that picture should look like and convince you that this is something you should be interested in. And I'll end up with I'll use one of the dirty words in the Agile community, governance. I'll talk a little bit about governance and why it's important and how it's built right into DAD. So anyways, what's Disciplined Agile Delivery all about? So the first key point is that what it actually is a process decision framework, and I'll walk you through a few slides in a couple of minutes of what that means. But it's really a process decision framework, and the reason why that's important is because project teams are making very important process decisions on a fairly regular basis, and unfortunately, they generally don't have the process knowledge to do that. Sometimes they think they do, and sometimes they do, or they've got some of the process knowledge, but they sub-optimize, and they really sort of struggle. And this, I think, is a problem. And if you take a look at the history of IT processes, 10 or 15 years ago, the Rational Unified Process was the number one process. It's actually the number two process right now worldwide, if I'm not mistaken. But the challenge with the RUP was that, and the RUP was great, don't get me wrong, I did a lot of work in it, but the challenge with the RUP was that they assumed that, what they did was they presented this large framework, this large body of knowledge, and then they assumed that you had the process expertise to tailor it down to what you needed. Then a lot of organizations struggled with that. They didn't have the process expertise. They would adopt more than they needed. They would take a far too heavy approach. So it didn't quite work out as well as it should have. Then along came Scrum, and Scrum became really popular 5, maybe even 10 years ago. And what happened, so the message with Scrum was they came at it from the opposite end, at the other extreme, and they said, well, here's this really small thing, and because you have the process expertise, you can tailor it up to meet your needs. So the challenge once again there was that a lot of organizations, or a lot of teams, I should say, don't have that inherent process expertise, and they're struggling again. So this is a problem. So one of the observations that we made with DAD is, well, instead of starting out with something big and tailoring it to the middle, or starting out with something small and tailoring it to the middle, why don't you just start in the middle? Start where you need to be to begin with. So that's one of the underlying philosophies of DAD. So the other key characteristics are that it's people first, it's goal driven. I'm really going to harp on that in a few minutes, because this, I think, is a key differentiator for DAD in the marketplace. And I think what will happen is, as soon as you see where we're coming from with it being goal driven, I think you'll say, aha, this is what we need. This is something, finally, somebody seems to get it. I'll also talk a little bit about how it has several full delivery life cycles. We take a look at the project beginning. How do you initiate a project? How do you do construction? And how do you transition into production? So the delivery aspect of the life cycle, not just construction, although then again, also not the full system life cycle. So we're not looking at operations and support, for example. We'll talk about it a little bit, but this is not a true full IT life cycle, but it's the delivery portion of it, which is absolutely key. I'll also talk a little bit about governance and how we have what's called a risk value lifecycle, something that we adopted. We adopted that idea from RUP. And I'll also talk a fair bit about how Disciplined Agile Delivery is actually a hybrid Agile process. We take ideas from a lot of sources and combine them.
Thank you for listening to this audiobook from Multimedia Publications. This is a part of a series of recordings of book readings and live seminars by some of the leading experts in business management. For more information on this series, visit our website at mmpubs.com.